Here's another spot where we are donking out of the small blind in a single raised pot. Um, Under the gun opens, who is like a tighter reg. We call in the small blind with ace, ace, king, five, single suited. And the big blind calls as well. Again, reinforcing what we talked about the last hand. I think that calling is the best play to keep in the fish, and with the intention of donk betting a lot of flops. Pretty standard, I think. Don't you? Do you think you're?
Yeah, especially since he only opened to 2.5 big blinds, we can make a large three bet. So when we decide to three bet, we have to deal with a high SPR out of position with a hand that won't flop that well most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. Our hand plays pretty well with this SPR in a three-way pot. Definitely. So flop is Jack 4 Deuce Rainbow, and we lead out for 36 into 45. Now, this is like the typical spot that I donk bet. When I have like an overpair on these drier boards. Most of the hands that I do donk bet on a variety of board textures are the types of hands that they're like almost like they're like not necessarily good enough to check raise, but it's like too strong to check call, if that makes sense. Like I think that, in other words, like I think that I'm ahead of my opponent's calling ranges, but check raising is just kind of overplaying our hand, especially when the SPR is this high. There's just no need to, like our hand isn't like we're definitely not happy about like check raising and getting it in against like a stack off range on this flop, for example. It of course makes our life a little bit easier that we have the gutter with our hand, but I think that even if we didn't have the gutter, like let's say I just had like ace ace king 9 or like ace ace king 10, I think that I would still donk bet. So we bet 36 into 45. The fish and the big blind calls, and the reg folds. Turns a king, and we continue to bet 89. Now, I think that this is, of course, like the perfect turn to continue betting on, but I want to rewind back to the flop for a second and talk about what cards maybe I would slow down on the turn. And I think that actually I would continue barreling literally every single turn card in the deck that's not a jack. Only reason that I wouldn't continue on a jack is because most opponents' ranges for peeling the flop is a lot of jack and side cards. But it's difficult to know which jack and side cards combinations they have, so it doesn't really make sense to like check fold like any 9, 10, queen, or king or something like that. It's better to just default to bet folding and charging them for calling one more time than to like check and let them get to the river for free. Yerk, do you agree, or how do you view situations like that?
Yeah, I agree 100% that we start betting on such a dry flop with intention, especially since the big blind is a huge fish. He will have a very wide peeling range, basically any pair, any draw, and it's so unlikely that he will hit two pairs on the turn, and much more likely that he will hit like that he has a pair and now he picked up something to go with it. Maybe if he had, for example, Jack 10 9 8, then now he's got the gutter with his pair, so he's maybe going to call again.
Right.
And just a lot of other combinations are just going to call. And if it happens, for example, if the turn is a queen of hearts and we continue betting and he raises us, so be it. So then he will have hit it this time, but he will still much more often he will just peel again because now he picked up like a flush draw or an open ender or something. And then on the river we have like pretty good idea on most river cards if we can value bet again, or if he should bluff catch, or if we should check fold because the river card hits his range too often, too hard.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that we've touched on the other hands as well. But when you're formulating a game plan for donk betting and continuing aggression on later streets, one of the most important factors, like of course, like one of the most important factors is your immediate hand value, but it's also what your hand value is going to be on later streets. So let's say that, and what I'm getting at is like turns that you can continue aggression on. So another reason why leading or donking this flop is good is because we have the backdoor flush draw. But let's say that like this flop was two-tone and I didn't have the backdoor flush draw and the board was like a little bit wetter, I'd be a lot more inclined to check fold it. So let's say like we just had naked aces and the flop was like Jack 5 two-tone and we had no flush draw or backdoor flush draw. I would probably just check fold that. But again, like because we have the backdoor flush draw, because we have a gutter, and because this board is a lot drier, it gives us the ability to lead out on this board texture.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Cool. And our fishy villain calls. We see a 7 on the river, and we check. And I think that checking is fine. there's just really no reason to bet. I think that he's going to calls with all two pairs, and I think that actually he might even check back like the worst two pairs. Um, and he checks back, and we actually do end up seeing his hand, which of course he has like the missed straight draw. So, Yurik, what do you think about would you be checking with the intention of check calling or check folding, given the action? What's your standard?
Against most fish, the typical line is to call flop, call turn with a draw, and then on the river brick, even though he can't grab anything, still take a stab at it just because they have no showdown value and they want to win the pot. So I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't bet here, even though he has no showdown value at all. So we should definitely make a note on that. And then in the future, if we play against the same fish and he decides to bet the river, then we can be a little bit more comfortable just check folding, because it's more likely that he just slow played a two pair or a set to the river and now he kind of value bets it. But against most players, or even against like unknown fishy looking opponents, I would check call here, because he's just not value betting sin with like a jack two type of hand, and they're like the straight draw from the flop missed. So we should definitely check call here.
Yep. Most important part about what Yurik just said, he's not betting thinly. He's not value betting thinly. So when you're analyzing someone's range on the river, and you know that, for example, like he's not going to bet like 7 deuce for value or jack deuce for value, well, he's really polarizing himself to very strong hands or air. And in this case, it's given what the action was, it's very hard for him to have a strong range.
Yep.
Cool. You got anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think the hand reflects perfectly once again that we managed to win a reasonable sized pot by start donking. So if we would have checked the flop, we don't know if the pre-flop raiser would have c-bet, and even though if he had, we kind of have to check call and then check the turn and go from there, and we have a much harder time realizing our equity, basically get to showdown, and we can't decide how many bets are going on to the river. So by donking, we take the initiative, we take basically the control of the hand, and it turns out perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I think that in other episodes we've talked a lot about how important relative position is, but in spots where you can donk bet effectively, it's nice because it kind of negates the relative position. Of course, like you just mentioned, if like it checked around a villain, the pre-flop raiser, and he bet, it would be, even though our hand is actually pretty strong in this board, it wouldn't be very comfortable like playing this hand unimproved on later streets against two other players, without the initiative. So donk betting allowed us to sort of overcome our poor relative position.
Yep.
Cool. Let's look at the next hand.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Casino Crime here. Now, if you like this video and you want more, then go ahead and click the subscribe button below right now. And if you want to join me for more of my 6 max success secrets and free video tutorials, just click the link to the right. See you inside the trainings. Good luck.